Talk Show. Recorded live.
It's Tuesday, August 9th, 2011. From Key West to Prudhoe Bay, Death Valley to the Smokies and back. Presented by Warm and Safe Heated Gear, home of the Heat Troller. Broadcasting live from the 10th floor of the Fisherman's Paradise Civic Center on the east bank of Lake Apopka, it's Side Standup, the world's only motorcycle radio roadshow with Tom Loudermilk and friends.
My guest tonight, and she can correct me if I'm pronouncing this wrong, Martha Forgét from Black Dog Cycle Works. They sell adventure riding products. And I'd like to welcome Martha to the show.
Thank you, Denise. And it's Forgét. So you were pretty close.
I was close. And actually,
at least you didn't say forget. Which is what most people say. So.
Well, I saw the accent.
Yeah.
I have a question, girls, real quick, ladies. Sorry. How do you get that little thing over the E? Can you do that on a regular computer?
Yes, you can.
Oh, how you do that?
Don't ask me how, though.
It's insert symbol. You have to go through the symbols to find it.
And then you have to put it over the right letter at the time.
Oh, never mind.
Are you planning on using it?
No, but I was trying to use it yesterday when I printed your name for the website a couple days ago. Well, I did something, or I guess it was for the alert today, but I did something. I played with it for a few minutes. I wonder how the heck did I do that?
Well, it actually doesn't have an E or a symbol over the E. The problem is if we don't put it, people say forget. So that's a technicality.
And it's wonderful to forget, Martha.
Yeah. Well, thanks for inviting us on. So do you want me to tell you a little bit about Black Dog Cycle Works, or?
I do. I think Tom wants to ask you a question, though.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yes, please. I ask this question to everybody who comes on the show. I don't know if you were made aware of this, but it's because there's always a lot of cool answers to it. Is what was the first motorcycle, mini bike, scooter, or two-wheel powered vehicle of some sort that you rode, and when was that?
Well, it was 14 years ago, and I don't know if you really want to count that 125 Nighthawk at the MSR school.
Sure.
I think it counts.
No, give me the next one.
But then the next bike I bought, and I actually called it a piece of, you could fill in the blank, Suzuki 400. It kept dying on me. I had it for 3 months, and then I bought myself a 650 F3, or 600 F3.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very
and
cool.
what do you ride now?
Well, and now I ride a KTM 990 adventure bike.
Well, that fits in well, and a good segue to you telling us about your adventure riding products at Black Dog Cycle Works. So, tell us what you specialize in, where we can find you, that kind of thing. Okay.
Well, Black Dog Cycle Works are really kind of, we like to look at it as a boutique-type online store. We specialize in products for the big adventure bikes, primarily the KTM Super Enduro and the adventure bike, and then the big BMWs, the 650 GS, bikes that basically go on-road, off-road. How it really started was we started by addressing the skid plate on the KTM adventure bike. Kurt felt it wasn't strong enough, nor did it protect enough of the underside of a bike that was going to take a pretty big beating off-road. So we just kind of started making skid plates, and then next thing you know, we're making rear racks, and we're addressing some other design flaws on the KTM big bikes. We've got a side stand relocation mount, things like that. And then, it just kind of kept rolling into this, gee, what kind of gear or what kind of stuff do we want to have on our bike, and wouldn't that be a great way to give people advice by testing what we want to sell, and really just selling the best that we think fits this kind of bike model.
Yeah, so it's like getting the best advice from the experts by what you offer on your site.
I mean, in reality, we can't compete with the big box stores, nor do we really want to. That's not kind of where our passion lies. We really like having relationships with our customers. I would say 60%, even though we're internet only, 60% of our business are manual orders. And a lot of that is because we offer advice.
Okay, because they call in, ask a question, then place the order.
They're setting up their bike. They just bought a Super Enduro. They hurt, and they call and ask us, to help them set it up.
Now, just so our listeners know, your website website is blackdogcw.com. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And we have a question from the chat room from Tamala Rich. She's one of those girls, and she will be one of our guests tonight. And the question is, do you know of any women doing the Transamerica Trail next year, 2012? She really wants to go, and she wants to go.
I'll tell you what, the Transamerica Trail, I think Elisa has done that. Click on her.
Okay.
She might be willing to do that again.
Okay, you know what? I know Elisa, so I can connect. I can connect them. So okay, great.
Yep. God, the problem is, if anyone's ever told you, don't get into a business that's your passion, because you just don't have as much time for your passion, and that's riding.
Well, that's very true, and I'm doing events on the weekends, and I completely understand that. And another parallel that we have is, you're a former finance executive, and I have a banker to biker chick background. How did you end up, going from the corporate world into working in the motorcycle industry?
Well, one, the corporate world fell apart, so that kind of helped catapult me into it. But to be honest, I took some time off trying to figure out what I wanted to do next, and it was just at the time that Black Dog was starting to take off. So I was spending time, I spent all my career in big corporate world, and I traveled, and I never had time to really volunteer in my community. So we had relocated to Sandpoint, Idaho from San Francisco Bay Area, and for once I thought I could really connect doing something. So I started volunteering at the animal shelter and put a lot of my time and effort into that. And then, I started answering the phone, and I started shipping, and I started, ordering inventory. And then I got on my first KTM, and I was just hooked. And from that point on, I've just been, that's my bike.
And that's allowed you to become even more of an expert on the products because you've used them. Well,
and I install them. And I would suggest to any, especially women that want to get into this, is go out, and even if it's your husband or friend that's helping you on the bike, do the work, because you will find out so much about your bike.
And let's talk a little bit about that. When we talked earlier, you had mentioned that there's a lot more women coming into adventure riding. So tell me what you've seen as far as women, doing this adventure riding, and are there any issues?
I'll tell you what. I guess it was in May. Elisa and I went over and did the Puget Sound Safety Adventure Camp, and it was for women only, and it was the most inspirational thing. There were 20 of us, all different ages, but what was really neat was there were older women. There were women in their 50s and some in their 60s that were out there learning techniques to ride their bike off-road. Mm-hmm. And they all started having these goals about big trips they wanted to do, and this was going to enable them to do it.
Sounds like something I need to do.
And you would love it. You don't have to do the women's only class. There's also, mixed class. But the instructors are awesome. And there are other good schools. Jimmy Lewis does a school. Rawhide Adventures does a school. But if you want to get down to kind of brass tack technique, we just found that the Puget Sound Safety was a great class.
Okay, all right.
If you're in the
Northwest.
Northwest. Yep.
Or want to go to the Northwest.
Well, come out here. Idaho is in the Northwest, so.
I rode through there last year. I'd love to do it again.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about preparing for an adventure ride. Are there certain things in preparation or useful products, or kind of like what are the must-have products if you're preparing for an adventure ride?
Okay. One thing is waterproof everything.
Okay, that makes sense.
Gore-Tex, I don't know if anyone has been kind of keeping their eye on Climb, but Climb is coming out with some really great Gore-Tex adventure suits that are waterproof, that you don't need to put a liner on.
Nice.
Because a liner doesn't do you any good if you're tenting and your jacket's wet. You might be dry, but your jacket's still wet. Mm-hmm. So, and when we do a lot of camping, so, and there's just some great gear out there. There's a new tent called the Redverse tent. It used to be the Nomad tent. 2-person tent. It's got a vestibule. It was the best thing we took to Alaska with us.
What's it called now? The
Redverse.
Redverse? How do you spell that?
Known Redverz.
Okay.
Great guy, Kevin Muggleton, designed this tent, and it was sold under the name of Nomad. Great gear. Good boots. I mean, get boots that cover your shins, your ankles. Again, go waterproof, because more than likely, if you're doing any off-road, you're going to get into some things that could have water. So you want, and I don't waste money buying bad gear.
As far as boots go, and this interests me because I haven't found any good waterproof boots that I've been happy with, but I haven't tried that many. What would be your recommendation?
I got the CD Rain Adventure Rain boot. They have a short style and a tall style, and I did the shorter style.
Okay.
So if you're doing road riding, they're very comfortable, and they are waterproof. I rode them to Alaska and back, and it rained almost the whole time. They were awesome.
And what's the breathability in a boot like that?
Okay, hot weather, not as great, so I just wear a slightly lighter climb sock.
Okay.
That breathes a little bit more.
Sure.
I mean, you're always that's going to be your trade-off.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say is always prepare your bike for the tools specifically to your bike. And we have a tool kit set up for each bike. We don't move it from bike to bike, because everybody's bike has certain tools that only work on their bike. If you're going to take adventure, you've got to have tire changing tools, whether you really know how to use them or not. You might come across somebody that knows how to use them if you get a flat.
Sure.
Have the tools with you.
So when you say tire changing or tire plugging or both?
Well, changing, a lot of these bikes are not tubeless.
Mm-hmm.
So like the KTMs are not tubeless.
Okay.
So you would have to have, and you would always want to carry a tube anyway, even if you had tubeless tires, in case you got such a bad puncture you had to put a tube in it.
Okay.
Tank bags. I'm a big tank bag person. We found this great brand called Endurastan, 100% waterproof. Huge map case, so that you can actually fold a map decently in it, and you can fit a bunch of maps in it.
And it's accessible. It's right there if you need it.
Yep.
Excellent.
The one thing I struggle with is finding, though, waterproof gloves. So if you've ever, that, and I think almost anybody that you talk to will tell you the same thing. It's the hardest thing to find.
No such thing. Give up search. They don't make them.
Climb says they're coming out with one, but it's going to be in the $250 range. But I'll tell you what, if it's waterproof, it's worth it to me.
I think it would have to be a one-piece shirt. My own personal opinion. If anybody does it, Climb can do it. They're the best.
I know. They are.
If anybody does it, they'll do it. But so far, and I think I don't know. A funny story, one time Jerry Watts was riding with Abernathy, and Abernathy's wife bought him a pair of those rain gloves you used to see go up about your elbow.
Right.
And it come down raining, just a toad choker. And they got to a stoplight, and Jerry looked over at Abernathy, and Abernathy raised up his arm, and the water just rushed out of those things. It's funny. So we'll go back. I'm just saying it's hard to find.
It is.
They'll keep your hands dry for a while, but if you're going to go out and run 500 miles in the rain, your hands are going to be prunes when you pull them out in gloves. I've never seen them beat that. For me.
Yeah, and sometimes they'll get in the gauntlet too. So sometimes you just got to tuck.
Oh yeah.
Well, we were in Alaska, and we had no choice. We had to catch a ferry. So, and it's just raining buckets. It snowed the night before, and what are you going to do? Crank up your heated grips and just suffer.
And deal with it.
Hope they steam you warm.
Yeah.
They will.
But that's what I've spent so much money, and I'm sure you have too, Denise, on just jackets, trying to find a great woman's jacket.
Right.
Especially when you get to adventure kind of gear. There's really, there's not been a lot out there. And that is with really good body armor. And that's why we're excited. Climb's coming out with, and I'm testing one of the jackets right now. It's just, it's spectacular. The gear is going to be really, really good, and we're excited about that.
So it sounds like for adventure riding, keep an eye on Climb, because they've got some good stuff coming out.
And for women, and this is the tough thing, is, women, we're an afterthought in almost everything, and that's why you've got the company you've got. we've been an afterthought. And in adventure riding, there just aren't as many women. So but Climbs made a jacket that, I put it on. I gave it to a buddy who's the same size. We undid a couple zippers in that, and it looked like a different jacket.
So is the Climb jacket, do they have a women's jacket, or are you adapting a men's jacket to work for you?
I'm adapting a men's jacket. And it has a couple features put in there specifically for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so you can adjust it.
Out. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. So in addition to the products, I think you have a big event coming up this weekend. What's going on?
We are doing our second annual Selkirk's Adventure Rally. And it's just something we decided to do last year. We have this beautiful piece of property in North Idaho. It's on a river. It's surrounded by mountains. It's a clever little town called Sandpoint, which was just named the most beautiful town by Rand McNally.
I love Sandpoint.
Yeah, and so
nice town.
What a great place to have a rally. So we do it on our property. We limit it to 50 people. Having been to a lot of different rallies ourselves, we like the intimacy of a smaller group. And it's really kind of customer appreciation group. We do a big pig roast on Saturday night. We have local beer and local wine and really good food. And 2 days of fabulous riding. And
is it something that you need to sign up for in advance?
And I have about 8 spots left.
Okay, so there are some spots left for this weekend.
Yep.
And then how would someone sign up? Would they call you or go to your website?
Best thing to do, call me at 208-263-0438. And we actually answer our phone, so that's always a plus.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yeah. So do you have any other good resources for adventure riders?
I'll tell you what, there's some, if you guys haven't seen them yet, there's a couple really good publications out there. One is Outrider Journal. It is a coffee table type book with just spectacular stories, etc. in it. There's also Adventure Rider Magazine. Those are 2 really top-notch magazines. A lot of people that are into adventure riding are out there on the forum called ADB Rider. It's a great forum. It's for exchanging ideas, talking about problems, solutions. It's very, very impressive. And other things like Horizons Unlimited, which I think is not just for adventure travelers, but for anybody that wants to take their bike on a trip.
Absolutely, and I believe we've had them on the show and talked about them before.
Yep, and we're going to go up to their, they're having a rally up in Nakusp, British Columbia, that Kurt and I are going to go attend.
When is that?
Of course you'd ask me that. I'm not at my desk. I think it's like the 23rd of the month.
Okay, so it's this month.
Yeah. Yep.
So where have you gone on some of your adventure rides? What have been some of the best trips?
I think the most rewarding trip for me was my first solo trip to Colorado. And that's probably when we met, Denise, when we did the women's
Women in Motorcycling Conference. Yeah, in 2009.
First time I got on a big bike all by myself and took off. And it was great.
Yeah.
And then last year, Kurt and I took a epic 3-week-plus trip to Alaska.
That is the epic, isn't it?
It is. And, we went camping, and I would say anybody going to Canada or Alaska, forget hotels. They're too expensive, and they're not very nice. And the camping in British Columbia is spectacular. Big campsites, fire rings, free firewood in a lot of them, picnic tables. So if you're on your bike, it's just, it's just great.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great experience.
Okay, that's good advice, especially if you're trying to keep costs down, which, if you want to ride a lot, you kind of have to.
And, it's tough if you haven't planned ahead, and you don't want to, on an adventure, you don't want to plan ahead and get a bunch of hotel rooms.
Right, you want to be able to zig and zag and decide what you want to do, and, things happen, and you make time up later, but you don't know when.
Yep, exactly.
So Tom, do you have any questions for Martha?
No, not really. I just enjoyed the conversation, but I do love Sandpoint. You're lucky to live there. Being a Florida boy, I don't think I'd like to live there in the winter, but It's a great drop-off. You cut off there, and you're in no time. You're over in Libby, Montana, Troy, Montana.
Yep.
Glacier National Park getting far away south around the southwest side of that. That's awesome riding all through out there.
It is. And, we've got some great routes mapped out this weekend, some on pavement, some on dirt. There's one that goes all around Lake Ponderay, which is the big lake in Sandpoint. So, yeah, it's going to be fun. We're really excited.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you should come up.
I need to get up that way again. I love it up there. I was up there in 2006 and cut through Sandpoint twice.
Well, and
actually.
the other thing we've just started to do is we have a thing called Destination Black Dog. Because so many people travel literally by Sandpoint on their way to Alaska or Canada, is just to offer, free tent space down by the river. And so we've already had a couple of people take us up on it this year.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. And, people had tires shipped here, that kind of thing. So.
Yeah.
It's a great resource.
Check us out on the web, blackdogcw.com.
Or you can see it on sidestandup.com. But, yeah, it's a great jump-off place. I used it to and from.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
Stopped at the same place and had a beer about 4 o'clock in the evening, both times. And one time I stayed in Libby, and the next time I stayed in Troy.
Yep.
And in Troy, I went out to this place on the edge of town going toward Libby. There's a place out there on the right. It looked like a place that was probably open for a year, closed for 7 months, open for 6 months, one of those places.
Right.
But it said something about hamburgers. So that evening after I got back from riding, I was going to go down there and get a hamburger, and it was closed. It was about 6, 7. It was dark, but it was about 7 or 8, 7:30 in the night, And coming back into town, there's a park on the left. And I saw 2 cops sitting there. I said, why would 2 cops be sitting out in this little town, out in the middle of nowhere, just sitting there? And as I come over this little bridge, you go over a bridge by the park, and it goes down and into the town. Falls about 10 or 15 feet. And on that dadgum bridge, while I'm staring at those cops, is a sign cutting the speed from 35 to 25. I was riding 39. And he pulled me over. And he cut me some slack. He marked it. Anyway, it was $20 on the spot. I felt very fair. Justice was served. I was fine, but I was so mad. I thought about going back and parking my motorcycle and marching down there and giving him a Watt 4. Because that was just, but I didn't. I appreciated the $20 check. I've still got the ticket. I keep my tickets sometimes. But it's beautiful riding out there. The people are friendly. I loved it out there. So.
Yeah. Yep, we do too. Beats the big city.
Oh, yeah. Coeur d'Alene, all that stuff's a beautiful area, too. That lake down there is just incredible.
Yep.
I would have liked to have been one of those guys that had a cottage on that lake when there was only a few, and that water must have been just unbelievable.
Yeah. It still is, though. There's not a lot of development up here.
Oh, old homes.
Yep.
I like it. I think it's a neat place. I got a lot of good memories about Idaho. Boise, nice. Riding, you can ride either way out of Boise going north. Yep. You can ride northeast, northwest. You're on good roads.
Stanley, that's a great. Lolo Pass, there's all.
Lolo Pass.
I moved through Lolo last year. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, it's epic.
That's the most, you know what? I've said this before. Lolo Pass is the most peaceful, nice road I've ever rode in my life. And
if it's hot, you just jump off and hop in the river.
Right. The river is gorgeous the whole way. You got this crystal clear. Most of the turns are nice. I can't remember these super sharp turns. They just seem like sweepers to me. But the river right there on your left, the whole time would cross a couple of times, but it's on the left a lot, and it's clear and rock cut bottomed. Yeah, you're right. Beautiful.
That was my favorite. That was my favorite part of my trip out there last year.
Yeah, the other one is the Cascade Highway. It goes across the northern part of the state of Washington. If you could ever do that road, that's just spectacular, too.
It's on the list now.
It's right up. It's right. Well, and just stop here and I'll do it with you. So
sounds great.
I think that isn't like the Route 3 sister in Canada?
Yes.
Isn't there a route?
Yep.
Yeah.
It is.
That's the one.
Yep.
Good roads, both good roads. Yeah, I tell you, you can't go wrong out there. You're living the right life. Too bad there's one thing. I do not ever want to live anywhere where the weatherman knows how to figure the wind chill factor. Ain't going to happen.
No, I hear you.
Paul's a Florida boy now.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in Wisconsin, so I figure, I should be.
Yeah.
At least I should understand it.
Yeah, you can handle it.
Yeah. But we need to get away in the winter a little bit more and go riding. That's our deal for next year.
I know it's not as bad where you live as it is a little bit northwest of you, a couple 100 miles. Those people get a pretty brutal winter out there. Or northeast, I mean. Those guys out there, like just south of the Glacier National Park, there's a little guy that has a place on an intersection down there. He had it for sale when I was out there in 06, and he owns the whole zip code. And it's like an old motel with no real television service, which it didn't matter really. It didn't have much of anything, any amenities. It barely passed, but it was fine. It was reasonable for being up there that time of year. But he'd been there for a long time. He was like he stopped being an architect out like in L.A. or something when he's in his mid-30s and moved out there. I think he was selling the place. He owned the whole zip code. I thought it was pretty clever. But I think although he was a lovely fellow, I think he went out there years ago and the whole place was like in different stages of half done. He would have something. He was a really neat guy. I kind of liked him. But he would have he started to build these log cabins years ago, and there's 1 3/4 done, and they kind of go down forward to where the ones just got one row of logs around it. And he said the same thing he had some motel rooms he's building, and you could tell he went after it for a while, and then he just quit. He had a bunch of buildings like that, and then this one little row of rooms.
Kind of like going to Baja, where everything's half built.
Yeah. But he was such a lovely guy. He was just a nice guy. His wife was wonderful. They raised 2 sons there, and they were both home, but they was off to college on some scholarships. They're bright kids. I can see why they want to get out of where they're living. That's for sure. But they said he told me that the winters were quite brutal there, and they lived there during the winters.
Yep.
I couldn't imagine. Well, girls, I guess it's really us because I don't see Nate because I'm supposed to text him. I guess I missed that.
Do you want me to text him?
I got him, or you can. That's all right. Just tell him I forgot to text him. Ladies, it's been a good night. I enjoyed talking to you. I envy you.
Me too. Thanks for having us on, and, whatever else you need to know about adventure riding, give us a call.
Look forward to it. Thanks
all right. Yeah. Martha, thank you so much. BlackDogCW.com, Martha Forgét from Black Dog Cycle Works.
Thanks. Bye, all.
Good night.